For centuries, humans have been growing alongside our botanical brethren. Our histories have mixed and mingled to bring us modern medical marvels, faded folklore, and everything in between. Of course, in order to understand the plant, we have to start with its roots. I'm M. Grebner Gaddis, and this is Rooted. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Rooted. This week, we're digging into a slightly feral floral favorite, Foxglove. Foxglove, or Digitalis purpurea, is native to Europe, but can now be found pretty much anywhere. It's the most famous member of the Plantaceae family, with most of its relatives looking extremely similar, but not being nearly as famous. It gets its name due to the fact that its unique purple flowers look a bit like the fingers of a glove, but it's also called fairy's cap or fairy's fingers. Before it was commonly known as foxglove, we were just calling it digitalis, which comes to us from famed German botanist Leonhard Fuchs in his 1542 publication, where he refers to them as digitalis, which literally translates to finger huts, but actually means something a bit closer to finger hat or thimble. It's easily identified because of its tall, spiky form that is filled out with dozens of tube or finger-like purple to light pink flowers that all have distinct spots, beckoning all kinds of pollinators to crawl inside and rub their little butts all over them, or curl up for a quick nap. The plant itself can get up to about a foot tall or so, with a bunch of light bright green leaves at the bottom of the stalk, which is then covered by downy, light gray hairs. While foxglove flowers are pretty and have plenty of uses, one important thing to note about this prolific biannual is that it's highly toxic to humans, so it's best to be careful when handling it or putting them in cut flower bouquets. They can pop up pretty much anywhere, as they really aren't too picky when it comes to soil, but they do prefer areas with recently disturbed soil and a decent amount of rainfall. In Greek mythology, foxglove is sacred to the goddess Flora, who apparently used it to impregnate Hera with the god Ares by rubbing it all over her body. Meanwhile, in Scandinavian folklore, it's said that fairies actually trained foxes to ring bells of the foxglove plant to warn each other when hunters were near. There are also some heartbreakingly adorable illustrations of foxes wearing the flowers as tiny little shoes, which are just absolutely heart-melting, and on our Instagram if you want to see them for yourself. In Ireland, fairies loved it so much that it's said a fairy had surely been anywhere you saw a foxglove growing in the wild, and folks used to plant them in their gardens in hopes that the fairies would come pay them a visit. In England, it was even said to be bad luck to pick a foxglove, as it would make the fairies angry. But that didn't stop folks from picking them to place in bouquets, as well as in babies' cribs or children's shoes, as it was believed that doing so would protect the child from bewitchment and later, scarlet fever, though no scientific evidence has ever supported that one. While we don't have any real proof of them being used to ward off scarlet fever, we do have a bit of a whimsical tale to tell us how we ever figured out that foxglove could be used in medicine. The story comes to us from a Welsh folktale rooted in the 13th century figure Rhiwallon, who was famously the doctor of the Prince of South Wales at that time. As a young man, Rhiwallon was walking by the lake when a mysterious mist arose from a magical golden boat. Rowing the boat was the most beautiful girl he'd ever seen. Godsmacked, he tried to think of something witty or charming to say to her, but she vanished into the mist before he ever thought of something. This launched an absolute obsession with her. He waited by the lake every night hoping to catch a glimpse of her, but eventually, he felt like he might not ever see her again. So he asked a wise old man in the village how you go about attracting a lady. The answer? Cheese. Which, genius move if you ask me. Who in their right mind is turning down cheese? Anyway, it absolutely worked, shocking no one, and she agreed to not only go on a date, basically committed to marrying him on the spot, as anyone would, honestly. As the years passed, they had 3 sons, and after the last son grew up, Rewallen's wife began rowing back to the lake. One day, she returned with a beautiful box adorned with jewels. She told Rewallen that if he would just hit her 3 times, she would be able to go home. Not wanting to harm his wife or lose her forever, Rewallen refused to hit her. However, that next morning, Rewallen was leaving for work after breakfast, and said goodbye to his wife the way he always did. He tapped her 3 times, and then leaned in to kiss her. But as he leaned in, she disappeared into the very mist she had appeared to him in all those years ago, leaving behind nothing but the box. Eventually, her sons decided to open that box, where they found a fastidiously recorded list of all medicinal herbs, including foxglove. Speaking of medicine, foxglove has been used to treat everything from epilepsy to heart disease. As I mentioned earlier, foxglove is toxic to humans in all parts of the plant, so please don't look at this as the hottest new addition to your medicine cabinet. Foxglove's leaves contain dioxin and digitoxin, which work to help strengthen the heartbeat and even out blood pressure, while improving circulation by blocking and disabling the sodium-potassium ion pumps in the heart cell membranes, causing a rising concentration of sodium and calcium ions inside the cell. Increasing the concentration of those ions causes the heart to beat stronger and a little slower, helping to promote better blood flow. However, if the dose is too high, foxglove will cause the heart to not just slow, but stop altogether. Not before it causes nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, tremors, and heart attack. Today, we actually use a synthetic version of these chemicals in pharmaceuticals that treat various heart and cardiac diseases. In non-lethal doses, digitalis can cause visual hallucinations, which create halos of light and give everything a strangely yellowish hue. This has led to all kinds of interesting scenarios over the years, including everything from traffic accidents for those taking the over-the-counter pharmaceuticals to Van Gogh's signature style. We believe that digitalis likely caused the shift to a more yellow palette and some of the iconic imagery in Van Gogh's work due to the fact that he was painted holding foxglove multiple times and likely would have been prescribed some kind of foxglove supplement to help treat some of his more chronic health conditions. Today, foxglove remains an important plant for pollinators, helps to fill out plenty of bouquets, and even still technically has a place in our medicine cabinets. Whether they've been intentionally planted in your garden or sprinkled along roadsides by wind or fairies, I hope the next time you see one, you think about all the interesting stories associated with it. If you like the show, please consider subscribing and leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you listen. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at rooted.pod. We're on YouTube at rooted.podcast, and you can check out our website, rootedpod.com, for transcripts, updates, and so much more. Special thanks to Eric Cluxon for writing and performing our theme music, and of course, a special thank you to all of you for being here. Until next time, be kind to yourselves, be kind to the earth, and just like a plant, drink your water.